Next on BGSU Brain Game, Toledo Early College, also known as TEC versus Van Wert. Weather predictions are we're going to have a synaptic tsunami. Only one team can leave victorious. The question always is who's it going to be? Only one way to find out. BGSU Brain Game starts right now. And welcome to BGSU Brain Game. It is Toledo Early College versus Van Wert. Let's get right to it and meet our teams. Van Wert, tell us who you are.
I'm Kaylee, and I'm a senior. To my left is Natalie. She's also a senior. To my right is Cadence. She's a sophomore, and we're coached by Anita Zuber.
Welcome to Van Wert, Toledo Early College. Tell us who you are.
I'm John David Height, and I'm a junior. To my left, I have Elijah Comer, and he's a junior as well. And to my right, I have Susanna Kozlai. She's a sophomore, and we're coached by Mr. Randy Nissen.
All right, and welcome to Toledo Early College. Starting things off in the toss-up round. All questions in this round, 10 points. No deduction for an incorrect answer. You can confer before buzzing in, and you can steal a question in this round. All right, teams, here we go. In 1994, the Nobel Peace Prize was given to three men who were credited for their work at achieving peace in the Middle East. The two Israeli leaders to receive the prize were Yitzhak Rabin and Shimon Peres. Who was the Palestinian leader? That would be Yasser Arafat. If you are choking, you hope someone knows how to do this. That would be Toledo Early College. John.
Heimlich.
The Heimlich maneuver, yes. When Melville's Bartleby doesn't want to do what his boss tells him, what does he say? I'd prefer not to. Each of these bones is formed by the fusion of the ilium, the ischium, and pubis. What are these? That would be Van Wert. Cadence.
The pelvis.
We cannot accept that. These two bones that connect with the sacrum and coccyx to form the bony pelvis. That would be Toledo Early College. Susie.
The tailbone.
Incorrect. We needed hip bones there. In 1635, this English Reformed theologian was expelled from Massachusetts Bay Colony for, quote, spreading new and dangerous ideas, end quote, and later founded the state of Rhode Island. Who was he? Roger Williams. Quote, man is born free, and everywhere he is in chains, end quote, is a quote from which philosopher? He popularized the idea of a social contract as a basis for political reform and revolution. That would be Toledo Early College. Elijah.
Karl Marx.
Incorrect. In 18th century Europe. Van Wert, would you like to steal? That would be Natalie.
Montesquieu.
Incorrect. Jean-Jacques Rousseau is who we needed there. The artist El Greco was born on this island that served as the center of the Minoan civilization from 2600 to 1400 BC or BCE. Identify this island that is the largest of the Greek archipelago. That would be Van Wert. Cadence.
Crete.
Crete is what we were looking for there. While Magellan is most often recognized as the first explorer, that would be Van Wert. Natalie.
Circumnavigate.
Incorrect. Explore to circumnavigate the world. Which English explorer did so aboard the Golden Hind during the reign of Elizabeth I? Toledo Early College. Susie.
Marco Polo.
Incorrect. Sir Francis Drake. Give the full name of the heroine of the Hunger Game series. That would be Van Wert. Kaylee.
Katniss Everdeen.
Correct. What type of slender stick, once strung with horsehair, is used to produce? That will be Van Wert. Cadence.
Bow.
Bow, yes. Which dividing wall that runs down the middle of the nose separates the two nasal cavities, each of which ends in a nostril? That will be Van Wert. Natalie.
The septum.
Septum, yes. In addition to President Abraham Lincoln, this 19th century U.S. president was also assassinated. Toledo Early College, John.
JFK.
Incorrect. Identify this mathematician who served as our 20th president. That would be Van Wert. Natalie.
Garfield.
Garfield, James A. During the mid to late 1950s, following World War II, this group of experimental artists sought inspiration from everyday items, consumer goods, and mass media. Identify this artistic movement. That would be Van Wert. Kaylee.
Pop art.
Pop art, yeah. In a two-dimensional drawing, a polyhedron or solid is drawn using two ellipses connected by two parallel line segments. What type of three-dimensional solid is represented? TEC, Susie.
A cylinder.
A cylinder, yes. A homonym of the noun. Ooh, end of round. Let's take a look at our score. Toledo Early College, 10 points. Van Wert, 70 points. You're going to want to stick around, folks, because our head-to-head round coming up next. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. We did have a scoring correction at the end of that round. Toledo Early College is at 20 points. Van Wert at 60 points. Both teams have elected to stay with the same lineup from the last round, so we're moving right on to our head-to-head round. Now, in this round, all questions are worth 10 points. Both teams, you will receive 15 questions. They are the same 15 questions. One will stay in the studio, one team will go to isolation. There were 10 points, no deduction for an incorrect answer. You may confer both before and after you buzz in, but once you buzz in, the clock starts to tick. All right, the clock is always ticking, 2 minutes and 30 seconds in this round. You may also pass on a question. You must buzz in and say pass. But we will not, I repeat, we will not return to those questions. Once they're gone forever. All right, Van Wert, you are at 60 points, so you might as well just settle in because Toledo Early College, you are off to isolation. All right, Van Wert, are you ready for your 15 head-to-head questions? All right, this round for you starts right now. In what year did the American Revolution begin?
1775.
Correct. What was the 50th state, the last one to be admitted to the Union?
Hawaii.
Incorrect. Alaska. In the periodic table of the elements, what number gives the number of protons in the element?
Atomic number.
Correct. Name the Greek writer of fables such as the tortoise.
Aesop.
Correct. Oedipus Rex was written by which ancient Greek?
Sophocles.
Correct. This baseball player of old has a candy bar named after him.
Yeah. Babe Ruth.
Indeed. Great candy bar, too. At the end of the poem, Casey at the bat, there is no joy in Mudville. Why not?
They lost. Sure.
They lost a game.
Incorrect. Casey struck out. Identify the following sentence by type. Stop talking.
Command? Yeah.
Command.
Incorrect. Imperative. We'll take that. We will take that. If you sprain your ankle, someone is sure to remind you of the acronym RICE, R-I-C-E. What does RICE stand for?
Rest, ice, cut off, elevate.
Rest, ice, compression, elevation. Among what American poet with the initials T-S-E wrote the love...
T.S. Eliot.
Correct. Name the best-selling author of legal thrillers whose first novel was A Time to Kill.
John Crusoe.
Incorrect. John Grisham. What two rivers join in Pittsburgh to form the Ohio River?
Pass.
Allegheny and Monongahela. What is the first Hispanic person to become a justice of the Supreme Court?
Pass.
Sandra Sotomayor. When a trial is changed from one locale to another, usually to avoid bias in the population due to news coverage, it is called a change of what?
Setting.
Incorrect. Venue. What name is given to cancer-causing agents?
Carcinogens.
Carcinogens.
Correct. That is all 15 questions in the head-to-head round for you, Van Wert. That means it's now time for you to go to isolation. All right, let's bring back in Toledo Early College. All right, welcome back. It is now time for your 15 head-to-head questions. Are you ready, Toledo Early College? This round for you starts right now. In what year did the American Revolution begin?
1769.
Incorrect. 1775. What was the 50th state, the last one to be admitted to the Union?
Hawaii.
Incorrect. Alaska. In the periodic table of the elements, what number gives the number of protons in the element?
Atomic.
We will accept that, yes. Name the Greek writer of fables such as the tortoise and the hare.
Aesop.
Correct. Oedipus Rex was written by which ancient Greek playwright?
Pass.
Sophocles. This baseball player of old has a candy bar named after him.
Babe Ruth.
Yes. At the end of the poem Casey at the Bat, there was no joy in Mudville. Why not?
Pass.
Casey struck out. Identify the following sentence by type. Stop talking.
Command.
Imperative. If you sprain your ankle, someone is sure to remind you of the acronym RICE, R-I-C-E. What does RICE stand for?
Rest, ice, compression, elevation.
Correct. What American poet with the initials T-S-E wrote the love song of J. Alfred?
T.S. Eliot.
Correct. Name the best-selling author of legal thrillers whose first novel was A Time to Kill.
Pass.
John Grisham. What two rivers join in Pittsburgh to form the Ohio River?
Pass.
The Allegheny and Monongahela. Who is the first Hispanic person to become a justice of the Supreme Court?
Pass.
Sandra Sotomayor. When a trial is changed from one locale to another, usually to avoid bias in the population due to news coverage, is called a change of what?
Pass.
Venue. What name is given to cancer-causing agents?
Carcinogens.
Correct. End of time, and that was all 15 questions for you, Toledo Early College. It is now time to clear our scores, and let's bring back in Van Wert. All right, teams, this is the moment. Let's find out where we stand. Van Wert, you have 150 points. Toledo Early College has 90 points. All right, folks, this thing is getting to be a little bit tighter. You're going to want to stick around because things can change very, very quickly. Why? Category rounds coming up next. Deductions also start. Stay tuned. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. We did have a scoring correction at the end of that last round. We now stand at Toledo Early College, 100 points. Van Wert, 160 points. Both teams have elected to stay with the same lineup, so we're moving right into the category round. There are 6 categories to choose from. Inside each category are questions worth 10, 15, 20, 25, and 30 points. But like I said before the end of the last round, deductions are going to start. If you go for 20, you're risking 20 points at that point. You can confer before buzzing in, not after, and you can steal a question in this round. Toledo Early College, since you are at 100 points, you have the honor of making the first selection.
We're going to take Colorado for 10.
Colorado for 10 points. Name these people, places, or things associated with the state of Colorado. The state's capital. That will be Van Wert. Natalie.
Denver.
Denver is correct, and Van Wert takes control.
Literary first lines for 30.
Literary first lines for 30 points. I will read you a famous first line from a work of literature. You will reply with the title of the work. It was a bright, cold day in April, and the clocks were striking. Toledo Early College, Elijah.
1984.
Correct. Toledo Early College back in control.
American First for 15.
American Firsts for 15 points. Based on the given clue, identify these American Firsts. Who served as America's first First Lady? Van Wert, Natalie.
Martha Washington.
Correct. Van Wert back in control.
American First for 25.
American Firsts for 25 points. First Chief Justice, Van Wert, Natalie.
John Jay.
Correct. Van Wert in control.
American First for 30.
American First now for 30 points. Who was the first child of English parents to be born in America on Roanoke Island? No one dared to that one. It was Virginia Dare. All right, Van Wert still in control.
American First for 20.
American First now for 20 points. Who was the first U.S. president to live in the White House? Van Wert, Natalie.
John Adams.
Correct. Van Wert still in control.
American First for 10.
American First for 10 points. First state to ratify the United States Constitution. Toledo Early College, Susie.
Massachusetts.
Incorrect. Van Wert, would you like to steal? That would be Cadence.
Delaware.
Delaware is what we needed there. Yes, Van Wert in control.
Literary first lines 25.
Literary first lines for 25 points. It is a truth. Toledo Early College, Susie.
Pride and Prejudice.
Correct. Toledo Early College back in control.
Can I have literary first lines for 20, please?
Literary first lines for 20. It was the best of time. Van Wert, Natalie.
A Tale of Two Cities.
Tale of Two Cities. Van Wert back in control.
Literary First Lines for 15.
Literary first lines for 15 points. You do not know about me without you have read a book by the name of Tom Sawyer. But that would be Toledo Early College.
Tom Sawyer.
Incorrect, Tom Sawyer. But that ain't no matter. That would be Van Wert. Natalie.
Huckleberry Finn.
Huckleberry Finn is what we needed there. All right, Van Wert in control.
Literary First Lines for 10.
Literary first lines for 10 points. Call Me Ishmael. That would be Van Wert. Natalie.
Moby Dick.
Moby Dick. Van Wert in control.
Shakespeare characters for 20.
Shakespeare characters for 20 points. I will name characters in plays by Shakespeare. You will name the play in which they appear. Goneril, Regan, and Cordelia. King Lear. Van Wert in control.
Shakespeare for 10.
Shakespeare for 10 points. Laertes and Horatio. Toledo Early College, Susie.
Hamlet.
Hamlet, yes. TEC in control now.
Can I have Shakespeare characters for 15, please?
Shakespeare characters for 15. Desdemona and Amelia. Van Wert, Natalie.
Othello.
Othello, yes. Van Wert back in control.
Shakespeare for 25.
Shakespeare now for 25 points. Titania and Oberon. Van Wert, Natalie.
A Midsummer Night's Dream.
Correct. Van Wert in control.
Shakespeare for 30.
Shakespeare for 30 points. Portia and Shylock. That would be The Merchant of Venice. All right, Van Wert in control.
Colorado for 15.
Colorado, 15 points. Number of senators that the state sends to the U.S. Senate. Van Wert, Kaylee.
2.
2, yes. Van Wert in control.
Colorado for 20.
Colorado for 20 points. Man who explored Colorado in the early 19th century and for whom one of the most famous mountain peaks in the state. That would be Van Wert, Natalie.
Pike.
Pike, yes. Zebulon Pike. Van Wert in control.
Colorado for 25.
Colorado now for 25 points. 4-story city carved in the cliffs of the Anasazi by the Anasazi Indians. Mesa Verde. Van Wert.
Architecture for 10.
Architecture now for 10 points. Give the architecture term for the descriptions provided. Period during which great towering cathedrals were built. Van Wert, Cadence.
Baroque.
Incorrect. Toledo Early Christian. Susie.
Neoclassicism.
Incorrect. We were looking specifically for Gothic there. All right, Van Wert in control.
Categories of light for 10.
Categories of light for 10 points. If an object absorbs all the wavelengths of light, what color will it appear? Van Wert, Natalie.
White.
Incorrect. Toledo Early College would like to steal. That will be Susie.
Black.
Black is correct. Tech in control.
Can we have architecture for 15, please?
Architecture now for 15 points. Squat, heavy style of architecture that dominated in Europe from about 900 to 1200. That would be Toledo Early College. Susie.
Tudor style?
Incorrect. Van Wert, would you like to steal? They're saying no, and that is time. Romanesque. Toledo Early College in control.
Colorado 30, please.
Colorado for 30 points. Massive canyon cut by the Arkansas River that is crossed by the world's highest suspension bridge. That will be the Royal Gorge. Toledo Early College in control.
Architecture for 20, please.
Architecture now for 20 points. Type of leaves on a Corinthian column. That will be acanthus, by the way. End of round. Let's take a look at our score. Toledo Early College, 125 points, currently in the lead. With 340 points is Van Wert. You're going to want to stick around because our brainstorm is coming up next, where questions are worth 20 points apiece. Stay tuned. And welcome back to BGSU Brain Game. Toledo Early College, 125 points. Van Wert, 340 points. Both teams have elected to stay with their same teams from the last round. We now move immediately to our brainstorm round. In this round, all questions are worth 20 points, negative 20 points for an incorrect answer. You may confer before buzzing in. If you confer after, you will lose 20 points. The main thing here is there's no stealing in this round. We will move immediately to the next question. Van Wert, Toledo Early College. Your brainstorm round begins right now. Along with the Daganoweda, this Native American leader conceived the idea of the Iroquois Confederacy. Hiawatha. In English usage and grammar, what type of clause contains a subject, verb, and coordinating conjunction and answers how, when, where, or why? That would be an adverb clause. In what southern state is the longest pedestrian suspension bridge in the United States? That would be Toledo Early College. Susie.
Colorado.
Incorrect. Tennessee. Correct the usage error in the following sentence. Neither I or Sal wanted to go riding. That would be Van Wert. Natalie.
Nor instead of or.
Correct. The principle of Ma'at was fundamental to all of Egyptian mythology. What does Ma'at mean? Van Wert, cadence.
An afterlife?
Incorrect. Harmonious balance. Which planet has moons named after characters in Shakespeare's Tempest? That would be Uranus. If you have arachnophobia, that would be Van Wert. Kaylee.
Spiders.
Spiders, you do not like them. Which ancient Mexican culture had a sophisticated mathematical system? That would be Van Wert. Cadence.
The Mayans.
The Mayans, they understand the concept of zero. Proteins are made from which fatty acids? That would be Toledo Early College. Susie.
Amino acids.
Correct. Because group 7 on the periodic table of elements react with alkalines to form salts, they are called what? Van Wert, Natalie.
Halogens.
Halogens, yes. In what state would you find the Painted Desert? Toledo Early College. Elijah.
California.
Incorrect. Arizona. What is the name of the element whose symbol is EU? Toledo Early College. Susie.
Iron.
Incorrect. Europium. In 2019, what was the most popular car color? That would be Van Wert. Cadence.
Black.
Incorrect. Silver. He played 26 seasons of professional football, the most in the sport's history. George Blanda. Name the area of the Atlantic Ocean in which a number of planes and ships, that would be Van Wert, Cadence.
Bermuda Triangle.
The Bermuda Triangle mysteriously disappeared. Name the capital of New Zealand. Cadence, Van Wert.
Auckland.
Incorrect, Wellington. What effect does Einstein's quantum theory of light attempt to explain? Did they get it in time? No, the photoelectric effect. This Civil War nurse founded the American Red Cross. That would be Natalie Van Wert.
Clara Barton.
Correct. Name the first woman to receive a medical degree in the United States. Elizabeth Blackwell, leader of soldiers in Vietnam who opened fire on 350 unarmed civilians in a village called My Lai in 1968. That would be William Calley. The first permanent settlement in America was named after this English king. Van Wert, Cadence.
King James.
More specific, please.
Jamestown.
Incorrect. James the First is what we needed there. In 1932, the kidnapping of whose baby son? Van Wert, Natalie.
Charles Lindbergh.
Charles, will we accept just Charles Lindbergh? Yes, okay. Charles and Anne Lindbergh. Name the river that flows through the Sea of Galilee and into the Dead Sea. End of round. Let's take a look at our score. That was the Jordan, by the way. Toledo Early College, 85 points, and our winner with 400 points is Van Wert. Let's give both these teams a big round of applause. Now, in the spirit of good sportsmanship, let's meet in the middle. We're going to shake hands, and we're going to see you at the next BGSU Brain Game.